All right, this is the Committee on Ways and Means. This is Tuesday, February 17, 2015. And we're at 6 p.m. Councilor Del Sula.
Here.
Councilor Hanlon.
Here.
Councilor Peter Napolitano.
Here.
Councilor Rosa DeFrio. We have 4 members present. We do have a quorum.
The Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, the first piece of business is, this is a resolution of the Council Rosa DeFrio. It's studying the
Chairman,
compensation level of the school committee.
Oh, okay, that's it. I'm sorry. Can we invite Mr. Parker up?
Excuse me, before we start this meeting, I could relieve myself from my position right here. My daughter's a teacher at the school committee, school department, and John's gonna come up and take over my chair.
Don't go too far. Okay. Councilors, the matters before you.
School committee member Frank Parker.
Motion and made and second.
Second.
To have Mr. Parker appear before us. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Parker, would you please come forward? You know how those mics work? Okay. Just hold the button in.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Frank Parker, 28 Freeman Ave. Here to represent the school committee as the chairman on the matter before you.
Councilor DeFlorio?
Mr. Parker, I guess the last time you were here, the committee had asked you to come up with a figure. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe the way we left it was the honorable body here was looking for a recommendation, and I'm prepared to present that tonight.
Okay.
So, currently, as you know, we make $5,500 per year. And
I think you have to hold that to.
No, you don't have to hold
No,
it.
you don't
As
have
long
to
as-
hold
as
it?
the-
Okay. What was the figure? There you go.
okay, great. Well, currently, we are making $5,500 a year. The number I'd like to respectfully submit is $11,500. And if I can just explain the methodology behind that, when you take, as you know, historically, the school committees did not get a salary. And a few years back, we came up, and the previous body, the bicameral system, was polite enough to award us a salary of $5,500 per year. So at the time, that was the same salary level as the common counselor. The Board of Aldermen at the time were making $7,200. So if you divide $5,500 by $7,200, it's approximately 77%. So the councilman or the school committee member at the time, based off the Board of Aldermen's salary, was making 72% of what the Board of Aldermen would make. 77%. The $11,500 figure that I gave you is approximately 77% of the $15,000 salary that the city council makes today. So we thought we would, maintain that same salary structure between both bodies, and that's the math behind it, and that's the methodology behind it. Feeling that there was somewhat of a precedent set in the past that we could possibly move forward with.
I don't have any further questions. I don't know if my
Peter?
colleague.
I don't have any questions. I would like to comment that, I think the school department does a great job.
Well, we'll wait for the comments.
We'll wait for the comments, okay? But
Any other questions?
the,
If I may, one question from the chair? Okay. The school committee have an expense account?
We do. It's the same as yours, $4,000.
4,000?
Yeah.
Now, how do you, that's not what ours is.
yes, it is,
We have
It is.
44,000?
4,000.
4,000. Each person.
Oh, 4,000 per person.
Per person, yeah.
Can I ask you how you receive that?
How do we receive it?
Right. Do you get that 4,000, or do you?
No, we follow the same rules that this body follows.
Okay, which is, when you expend something, you put in a JIT for it, and thank you.
Exactly, we use the same form, we use
Okay.
the same protocol, we go through Mr. Viscay, and it's the same type of items
Perfect.
that have been approved.
Okay?
You know,
No,
so,
that's good, that's good.
yeah,
Okay. Any
it's
further
not carte
questions?
blanche, that's for
Yes.
sure.
One more question. Yes, Rosa?
To me, I would rather cut down the expense account, but I don't know if that can be done. And just put it in the salary and show people the honesty of what we're making, you know? Along, you know, with you and along with the councils also, but I don't know how that charter really reads. I would have to ask Colleen that question.
Yeah.
Because I believe the charter says we shall have an expense account. Could we invite Colleen?
Charter says we shall have
We
it.
shall have, okay. So that means we can't eliminate it, we have to have it. But we can we by rule make it a certain amount, say no more than $1,000 or no more than 500?
If you want to make it a rule, certainly.
So we can make it a rule, but we have to have the expense account because of the charter, okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we actually tried to reduce our expense account during the budget hearings last year, and it got shot down by the city council,
Okay.
just for the record. Honestly, I think that it's
Before you
important.
do that, any other questions of Mr. Parker? No? No. Thank you. You have something to say?
Can I add to that?
Please.
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, so one of the things I want to bring to your attention is the time frame that we're dealing with here. So any salary increase has to be approved prior to June 30th. The thing is that we will be completing our budget by mid-April. And then in the beginning of May, there'll be a public hearing, and then by charter, we have it approved by the city council by May 15th. So hopefully at some point, even tonight, you come out with a favorable action on an amount so we can hit those timelines. Now, as far as an expense account goes, I've already had some discussions with that, preliminary discussions with Mr. Ela, who's the chairman of the Finance Committee. And, you know, our feeling is that, you know, we would look to reduce our expense account, because now that we've got a history of, you know, almost one fiscal year, you know, $4,000 is more than plenty for us. And even though you're not spending the $4,000, you still carry it on the books as a liability. So, you know, even if we cut that in half down to $2,000 per person, that's $18,000. So we could shift that expense liability to this new salary structure, and that'll, if you did approve the $11,500, that would cover, you know, the salary increase on three members alone. So, thank you.
I do have a question.
Councilman Napolitano.
Thank you. All right, so now, we approve recommend an increase. It goes in for the budget. Now, that actually takes place on the next session of elected officials, or does that go into effect in July?
It's my understanding it's in July.
Next session.
Okay.
I know changes in our salary go into effect. We can't affect our own salaries. It goes into the
Okay.
following session, and it would be the same with any other elected officials. I assumed it's the same with the school department. I just was curious if you had
Okay,
any
so
insight on that.
that would be in January, which still is within the same fiscal year, which follows the same timeline that I outlined.
So actually, to minimize things, you're actually, if an increase gets approved, you're not even looking at putting on the next year's budget a full increased salary. We're looking at the the current salary up until the end of the session, and then the new salary for the first 6 months or rather the last 6 months of next fiscal year.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
So that also minimizes the impact on the taxpayers as well.
well, in theory, it doesn't,
In the long haul, it doesn't. But
because,
This fiscal budget, this next fiscal year.
right,
We're not looking at, the same thing happened with us with our expense account. It was budgeted for a lesser amount for the
Yeah.
second half of the year, and then it increased for the following year.
okay.
All right. I have no other questions.
Councilor DeFlorio?
I actually don't have a question, but it's better he stays there in case he wants a comment. What I was thinking of doing, Counselor Hanlon, is that, unfortunately, this is tough decisions that we have to make, okay? And we take the heat for it. So to me, just do it once and forget about it. So the 11.5 is fine, but I would like to put the CPI in there. So whatever the union workers get, if they get 2% a year, 1% or 3%, they get the same thing. And I would fight for that for ourselves also. And then we never have to do this again. You don't do something after 30 years. If you stop to think in the last 9 years, okay? I'm not against the clerical workers, I'm not against the city workers, they do a wonderful job, I'm not against them getting a raise, believe me. But they received a 9% raise, 11% raise 1 year, okay? And then 2% every year. So in the last 9 years, if you get the 11%, and 2 times 8 is 16, 27% raise in 9 years. Now, we give somebody a 27% raise over here, people go crazy. They don't realize that for 9 years, 10 years, nobody's gotten a raise. So I would like to know if that's a problem or how this board feels about putting the CPI index in along with the whatever pay we decide.
Okay. Councilman Pelletier?
I think at this point, where we're already looking at some issues this year fiscally with the overtime and weather conditions that are going on out there, school department is going to be definitely needing more money because of the sheer number of children that they're educating. I would prefer that we keep the issue of the school committee salary separate from everything else. I would prefer to table any discussion for CPNI for a later date. As it stands right now, we're less than 2 years after a increase in the mayor's salary. We're less than 2 years into an increase in the city council's salary. The only elected officials that did not receive any adjustment with the new changes was the school committee. I would prefer that be left as a separate issue so as not to compound this with other information. And I'm not opposed to any cost of living adjustment, but I am opposed to any grouping of their situation with the rest of the elected officials in the city of Everett. Our issue has already been addressed, and if the city council wants to revisit it during election year, then it should be revisited as a separate item. But the school committee's issue has not been addressed since the salary was initially. We've already established, based on the last time they were up here, that their workload is as heavy, and in some cases even heavier than ours. And so I have no problem with any issues that justify their reason for greater compensation. I just think that this is not, something that we group everybody in at once. Let's take care of the only elected body that had not had an adjustment and move on. That's my feeling.
Councilor?
I want to make this very clear. Nobody wants to give away tax dollars, okay? So let's make this straight. I want to be more honest with the taxpayers.
Councilor,
Okay.
are we still talking about the school committee?
Well, we have school committee and we
Let's stay on
have
the topic.
the council together, okay? So the point is, we're making $15,000 plus we have a $4,000 expense account. I want to get that expense account, I want to put it down, even to 500, less, and put the money in the salary, because what's happening is that expense account is in the long run costing us more money, because the auditor and that office has to do more work. We have to supply bills, they have to do more work. And that's what we're making anyways. And I understand we don't have to use the expense account, but the point is if we have the option to use it. So just make it one salary and that's it. That's all I'm trying to do. And put the CPI in there so that way this never has to be done again. Because the last 30 years, nobody did anything. They were all afraid nobody was gonna get elected again. Okay? So do it right once and for all, and that's it. I don't want this in front of me 2 years from now, a year from now. That's my feeling, and that's how I feel. As far as the school committee, I don't have a problem with that salary structure. As far as the council, I make a recommendation of $19,000 with the CPI, and the school committee $11,500 with the CPI, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Councilor?
Okay, I would like, in lack of a second on that motion, I would like to make a motion that that we recommend a salary for the school committee of $11,500.
I'll second Peter's motion. I'll second the 11.5. Any further discussions? Excuse you with the customary thanks, Mr. Parker.
Thanks,
Thank you
ladies
so
and
much for
gentlemen.
appearing. Okay. Bearing no further discussion on the motion, clerk will call the roll. This is just for the city clerk, city school committee part of it.
So we're separating the school committee with the
Okay.
council?
Well, we're gonna find out.
Because line one is both.
Okay. We're
I just
gonna-
wanna make sure we do
this
it
is
right.
The vote that's before us right now is $11,500 for the school committee. That's it. That's all that's
With
before
no
us right
CPI, leave it just at
That was a
11,500.
recommendation.
All right, Councilor Bree,
Yes.
I got Councilor,
Yes?
and Councilor Paul.
Yes.
Rosa, oh. Okay. Now, do you think, we're not finished with that? I'm gonna finish that one. Okay, so far we have taken care of the school committee part of it. Now there's a city council part of it that is still left to be discussed.
I got a meeting at 7:30.
Thank you.
6:30, thank you.
You're all set, yes. Pardon? No, I'm gonna, it's still part of item number 1. Yeah.
So, and I
Well,
don't know if anybody else.
Make it again, because you made it in 2 things, so make it again.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has done any other research, but that's my recommendation, is that we get the expense account and cut it down. I know that has to be done separately, but obviously, we should be able to keep our word as city councilors. To cut down the expense account and make the salary for the school, for the city council at $19,000. Now, I don't want to add the CPI in there because we didn't do it for the school committee. So that's, I don't think that's fair at this point. So just leave it at 19,000, and then on the floor, if we decide that that's what it's gonna be, then I recommend that we do put the CPI in there for both.
And what about the expense account?
The expense account, well, like, unfortunately,
Because you had mentioned it.
yeah, unfortunately, Counselor, the expense account is not on the agenda.
Right.
So I don't think, we can make a recommendation, and then bring that up at a later date. But I don't believe we can cut the expense account now because it's not on the agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Burrows?
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Napolitano?
Thank you. Could I ask the city solicitor to come up, please?
Yes. Motion made, we have a second? Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My understanding is that the question of an expense account came out of the charter reform. And the
I
new
believe so.
city
I don't
charter.
have the charter in front of me, but I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So so because it's in the charter, can the city council remove it?
I don't know if the language says may or shall, so I'd have to read it and.
Can you, for the public, can you explain the difference if it says one
If
or
it's
the other?
may is permissible, so you don't have to do it, but if it says shall, then, it says shall, then shall is, there's no, yeah.
So the city council can't remove it, if I understand correctly. We would budget less for the expense account? Is that correct?
Yes.
How we would do it?
Yes.
But
Yeah, if
there's
I may,
nothing to
Counselor,
prevent-
just for your information, okay? This is section 2.4 of the charter, and at the very end of it, it said, subject to appropriation, council members shall be entitled to reimbursement of their actual and necessary expenses incurred in the performance of their duties.
So if you
that-
don't appropriate any money, then there's no expense account.
Right.
So
But
you
there's-
can actually appropriate $0.
But you can also appropriate more money as well.
Yes. Well, you can propose it in your budget, more money. But if you do appropriate money, then the counselors must be reimbursed for expenses. That's how I interpret what
Right.
Counselor Hanlon just read.
And that's actually how I've interpreted it as well. All right, thank you. That's why
You're welcome.
I wanted to clear that, and I have some comments on that interpretation, if I could.
Okay.
I'll hold back, though, if anybody has any
Counsel
questions for the
DeFlorio?
city solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colleen, in our expense account, we specified cell phone, internet. We can remove that from that. In other words, we can remove those lines from the expense account, or what we can use the expense account
Yes,
for?
yes.
Okay, that can be removed?
Yes.
So once we remove cell phone and
Internet.
internet, we will not be able to use it for that anymore.
Correct, unless you have some language in there that's kind of a catch-all phrase, you know, you might be able to. But if it's very specific, again, I don't have the language in front of me. If you're only allowed expenses for an itemized list in your rules, then those would be the only things that you'd be able to receive reimbursement for.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excuse with the customary
Any-
thanks, I don't have it.
Any further questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a
Thank you,
comment.
Colleen.
So based on what the city solicitor just told us, and again, that was my understanding of it, I just wanted to get it out there, make sure that we're all in agreement. The thing is that raising the council's salary in lieu of reducing expenses doesn't prohibit the ability for a different city council down the road to increase the expenses and then get the best of both worlds. For that reason alone, I'm opposed to this. Now, you know, it's all about transparency, about making sure that people understand what we're doing. When we get reimbursed for actual true expenses, for example, if I know that you put in an expense report for a meeting out of area, I know that you're attending that meeting. You've spent the money, you're entitled to it. I know that when we put in, that we're all using our phones, we're using internet, we put in an expense report for that, we get reimbursed for it, okay? I don't believe that blanketly giving us an additional amount of money over and above that, and then in lieu of expense report account, when we can't remove it from the charter to prohibit future bodies from taking advantage of both situations, I think it's an issue that has got more problems than it's worth. Again, I repeat my original statement. I don't believe it's appropriate for the first session of the unicameral city council to be discussing increased salary. We haven't been in the job a full session yet. We don't have tracking on how much a full year or how much a full session's worth of expense costs are. And the one other thing, too, with the expense account is that if we don't use it, we return it. So we're actually in a position to, even though we're budgeted for X amount of dollars, if we don't use that amount of money, that money goes right back to the taxpayers. That is good government. Being able to put that money into our salaries, which we will not return back to the taxpayers, I don't believe is doing right for the taxpayers.
Councilor DeFlorio.
All due respect, but the next councilors can also raise their pays.
Can what?
They can also raise their
Oh, yes,
pay,
yes.
not just their expense account, okay? So let's make that clear. The other question I have is, I have a question for the city auditor.
Motion made, second, anybody? Second. For city auditor, Pierre?
I'm not sure if it's on or off.
The other one's on anyway.
It's on?
Yeah, the green one. Yeah.
The other one's on.
Oh, this one's on. Okay.
Mr. Biscay, under the old charter, a lot of councils and aldermen took health benefits, so that was a lot of money for the city. Now that the city doesn't offer health benefits anymore, so there's 11 councils not taking health benefits, how much does that save the taxpayer?
Without having any statistics on who was taking it before or not taking it before, it'd be hard to say exactly, but a typical family plan costs about $17,000 a year, so if you want to do the maximum exposure, 17,000 times 11 members, be somewhere in the $182,000 range, I suppose. But I don't know exactly who took it and who didn't take it before that was made, so I'd say anywhere from,
Well, some people took it and some didn't. but-
you know, some might have a single plan, some people might have a family plan, but I think the
Right.
maximum exposure would be around $180,000, let's
So
say.
there's no councils taking it right now.
They're not allowed to,
Right.
right. But I don't
If
know,
they retire and take their health, but they can take their health benefits, is that correct?
that's my understanding, yes. They're eligible for health insurance when they retire.
But, all right, so they have to retire. But if they retire and take the health benefits, can they run again?
Again, I can't confirm for sure that if they retire, they get them, but I would have to do some research, maybe.
Maybe
don't know if-
Melissa knows the answer to that, because I'm,
If a counselor retires, do they have the right to then get the city's health insurance benefits? You want to invite Melissa up?
Sorry.
sure.
Yes, please appear.
Probably a better question for the retirement office, but the way I understand it is if you have a number of years in when you were eligible for retirement, then yes, you would be. But if you're not eligible for retirement, right, so if you, let's take for instance,
You could take me. I've
All
been
right.
here 10 years, I'm 60 years old.
yes, you've paid in, you've been here 10 years, then you would be able to, right? Because you paid in during the time when you were all eligible for retirement.
So, right.
Right.
So,
A
in
new
other
counselor
words,
today, more likely than not, would not be able to because they never paid into
They
the
never
system.
paid into it. So if
Right.
I paid into it, I can retire, and then I can run for council again? And take both the
Yes.
salary and the insurance?
You can retire and run for council, that's correct, and take the insurance.
Excuse me, are we talking about health benefits? Are you talking about?
Health
retirement
Yes.
benefits?
I mean,
He's
I'm
talking
gonna
about-
leave Council Halen out of it. He was the mayor all these years, and obviously, he should take the health benefits, because that's what he, you know, he was the,
You don't have to
city
leave me out
clerk.
of
I'm sorry.
If you, so you're asking about retirement and taking health insurance. If you were eligible, my opinion of it is that if you were eligible, if you served during the time when health insurance was an option for our city councilors, and you have 10 years in during that
What I'm trying to say is, I don't
time.
think it would be fair for me to take the health benefits, take the salary, then come back as a councilor and take both. I should be taking either one or the other. I'm not trying to cause any problems.
Sure. Under the law, I believe that you can retire and serve as a city councilor, yes.
So I would make the 17,000, the family plan, plus the 15,000 for the council.
Well, you would make whatever you're eligible to under your, go ahead.
I think what you're speaking of is maybe a total compensation. I wouldn't call it making. You would have a benefit at your disposal. And once you retire, when you hit 65, you also have to opt into a Medex plan. So there are certain things. But basically, the way the city runs now, if you have 10 years of eligible service in the retirement system that allows you to retire with a pension, you are then eligible for health insurance through the city. That's the way it runs right now. So if there was a counselor that has contributed for 10 years into the retirement system, and then they retire and receive a pension, they are then eligible for the city's health insurance. Now, if you're under 65, there's certain plans that you're allowed to be a part of. And then once you hit 65 years old, you have to default to a Medex plan, which is a different set of benefits and different amounts. But when you say be entitled to, as far as it's not a compensation, it's not a salary item, but it would be something that you could figure as a total compensation, so to speak.
But you may get a salary line item as well when you retire. You're echoing because you have two mics on. You may, yeah, you may get a salary as well when you retire. So you could be, based on your salaries, could get, I don't know, $20 a month or $20 a week or whatever, and then be eligible for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just if I could clear that up, I'm sorry. If someone works for 10 years and they can retire, they can apply for health insurance when they retire.
That's correct.
But you had mentioned earlier that if they were previously in the health benefits? or does it mean-
The rule of someone who's retired, you need 10 years of service to retire with a pension.
Yes,
If you retire from the city, you are eligible for the health insurance.
no matter what.
No matter what.
Good, good, okay, good, okay. Peter?
And I just want to add.
I'm sorry,
one other
Councilor
question, too.
Napolitano.
When a elected official retires, if they come back, right, and let's say the salary is different, their new salary, once they've retired, no longer affects their retirement benefits, correct?
There are certain laws, I would defer to Bob Shaw, but if your average 3-year salary is X amount of dollars, there is a gap of which you can make up to, I believe, 115% of what you made. So as a council, let's say you made $15,000 a year, and then you get a pension and it's $8,000 a year, I believe you can make up to $7,000 plus whatever 15% is. Again, I'm not the retirement director, but that's, you can't retire and then make $40,000. You have to, there's retirement laws that say you can only make a max on your salary, so you'd have to work with Bob Shaw to make sure you're in those parameters.
What I was actually trying to allude to is here is that your retirement is based on your three highest grossing years, correct?
Yes, plus
It's
your,
actually
plus
5
your
now.
age and plus your years of
Plus your
service.
years
Yeah.
of service.
Right.
So when you.
It's 5 now.
So if you
5
take
years.
retirement,
That's 5 only for people who started after
New
April
people,
1st.
yes.
if you take retirement, if a person who served on the common council takes a retirement, and it's based on their three highest salaries, which would be 5,500, which is what the common council salary was. If they retire, whatever their benefits are as a retiree, and they come back in service at a higher salary, their salary no longer affects their retirement rate. It's still based on your three highest
Right.
pre-retirement years.
You've already retired.
So any money, any additional monies you make after that, the only way you're eligible for that to affect your pension is if you pay back any pension money that you were paid, and then basically unretire to make those years eligible. The only reason I'm aware of this is because I'm actually part of that. I understand. I'm over 55. I'm retired as far, because of I was vested as a common councilor. So I know that when I came back and asked what criteria I could run back for the city councilor, I was told point blank, which I had no problem with, is that my city council salary has no bearing on my retirement anymore unless I pay the money back, and then it would basically restart. So there's a lot more involved to this, and that's another reason why throwing retirement into this and health insurance for retirees kind of muddles the issue here. You know, I mean, we're strictly talking about compensation for city councilors. And the fact that the charter does not allow us to collect health insurance as a city councilor is clear. The fact that we have an expense expense account is in the charter, it's clear. So the only thing it comes down to is how we as a body, and as I'm thinking to my colleagues as well, affect both setting a budget limit for expense accounts, and whether or not we're satisfied with the salary we're receiving, or if we feel that we deserve more. Okay, I'm thinking right now, well, I don't want to make a comment, but I just wanted to, make a comment. I'm actually very well aware of how the pension system works in this regard, only because I'm actually part of the system. All right, thank you.
So you say, I mean, if that's how you understand it, as long as that's your message to the people at home.
It doesn't affect our, our
Again,
salaries now do not affect any actively serving city councils
I mean,
who are in the retirement.
I can't confirm what you're saying. I understand you probably know what you're saying, but if you're asking me to confirm it, I can't.
No, that's fine. No,
I don't know if you're speaking to me to confirm that, but I'm not, again,
Yes,
Bob
if
Shaw would be the
you're aware
person.
of it, and, that's fine. If you're not able to confirm that, that's fine. I just wanted to know if you were able to.
Councilor DeFlorio.
What I was trying to say is, I understand that anybody can make the expense account anything they want. Any council comes in, they can make the salary anything they want. They have the ability to raise their pays, they have the ability to raise the expense account. Right now, what we have in front of us, okay, saying that 11 of us here right now would cut the expense account to make less work for you in your office, and just put it into the salary, is what I was trying to say. The other point I was trying to make with the health benefits is that this isn't costing the taxpayer any more money. It cost a lot more money 2 years ago. Even with the $19,000, the taxpayer's saving a lot of money. Okay, so it's not about getting an extra $3,000 in your pocket, an extra $4,000 in your pocket. It's a matter of saying to people, if I want to use that expense account, the whole $4,000, as a matter of fact, I think if I can use the whole thing. I can use the whole expense account. I'm trying to make it more clear for the people to say, we're making $15,000 plus $4,000 expenses, 19. So how much work is involved with you getting all these bills every month and writing the checks, and there's gonna be some work involved with that, is that right?
I mean, administratively, sure, it's a little more work for us, verifying the receipts that we get in, make sure that they're appropriate and subject to reimbursement, reviewing phone bills, reviewing internet bills, and making sure that someone isn't paying $30 for a phone and asking for $50 and such. Sure, there's some administrative work.
So okay.
Would it be cleaner if it was just a lump sum salary? Yeah, absolutely, but, you know, either way, we'll handle it, but if you're asking if it's more administrative work, yeah, the answer is
Well, I was
yes.
just trying to make it a little easier, that's
Yeah,
all. But
yeah.
I understand, you know, you do your job very
Yeah.
well downstairs, and so does the administrator. I don't have
Thank
a
you.
problem with that. But anyways, I don't have any further questions.
If there's no further questions, thank you both very much for appearing. Appreciate it. Okay. I have just one motion before me, and it has not been seconded. That's for $19,000 salary increase. Is that the only motion that's before us? I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes? Councilman Napolitano.
Well, the only discussion I have is that, you know, most of us will not spend $4,000 a year in expenses. So putting that $4,000 in on top of our salaries,
We're not doing that.
I'm not doing it.
We're not doing that.
the motion is for $19,000.
That's it, period. There's $19,000.
Plus the
Nothing to do with
expense account.
account. Nothing to do with the expense
Well,
account.
even more so then. I don't believe that it's appropriate with us to be a little more than halfway through this session to be voting ourselves a raise, period.
Okay. No further discussion? Clerk, call the roll?
All right. Counselor Florio.
Yes.
I got Counselor Hill.
Yes.
And I got Counselor Napolitano.
No,
All right, so we had 2 yeas, 1 nay.
2 yeas, no nays, you've passed the odd motion. Okay, clerk will read item number 2.
All right, item number 2. This is a resolution by Council Peter Napolitano that the city auditor provide a breakdown of the current overtime paid out this fiscal year.
Councilor Napolitano?
thank you. I understand that representatives of the city services are not able to make it this evening. They're out doing snow removal. First of all, I want to commend them for the job they've done, although I realize that's not a sentiment that's shared in every circle of the city. But as someone who commutes from Everett to Malden, I can tell you that the minute you cross the city line, you can see a significant difference. So, you know, at this point, you know, they're busy. They're doing what they need to do to make sure our streets are safe, to try to remove as much of the excess snow. So I would ask to grant further time on this and to invite them up at our next meeting.
Second the motion.
Motion granted for further time?
Yeah, refer it back to committee.
Refer it back to committee.
Second.
Thank
That's what
you.
it was, Peter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Refer it back.
All right, item number 3. This is a ordinance by Council Rosa Florio to increase the salary for the position of mayor to $126,252. Therefore, and on January 1st of each ensuing year, the salary for the position shall be adjusted by applying the CPI.
Councilor Floria?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so this board knows, the people that weren't there last year, we had already done this in finance. We spent 6 months in finance. We went through the whole salary line item. We went through a lot of research. We went through other cities and towns, and we come up with a figure. The finance committee come up with 125 at the time. And the councilors passed it, and the aldermen did not pass it. So this isn't something new. This is something that was done 2 years ago. And unfortunately, nobody's trying to give anything away here. But when you have, like I said, the last 9 years, the city workers got a 27% increase because they keep getting 2%, 2%. Department heads, and especially the mayor's salary, we have to set it. And this doesn't mean it's the position, okay? It's the position of the mayor, because in the future, you don't know who the mayor's gonna be, all right? But to me, when the department heads start making more than the mayor, we have a problem. We have a problem in the city. And let's make the tough decision, all right? People's tax bills aren't gonna go up by $1,000 based on 10, 20,000. And I know a lot of people say, you know, 100 here, 100 here, 100 there, you save it. Well, there's a lot of work to be done in the future. I said it before, and I'm gonna say it again. We have a casino coming. There's gonna be a lot of meetings we have to go. there's a lot of places we do go, and some of us go to everything, right? So, I don't know what this board wants to do, but as far as I'm concerned, study's been done. I gave everybody a copy of the study the last time. If we have any questions for the chief of staff or anybody in this office, let's ask the question, let's come up with a tough decision once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Hanlon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The salary of $126,252 for the mayor is not an extraordinary salary. If we look around at other cities and towns, some larger, some smaller in size, some larger, some smaller in population, you'll see that that's not a terribly high figure. So I am in favor of that $126,252. However, I am not at this moment in favor of the CPI. And the reason for that is that I don't think that, could I have the city solicitor before us, please?
Second.
Good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, through you to our city solicitor.
Sure.
Colleen, on the CPI, as opposed to the salary, we only have a certain amount of time in which we can appoint a salary, you know, when it takes effect. But the CPI can take effect tomorrow if we ask for it, can't it?
It's already in the ordinance, that CPI language is already in the ordinance.
For the mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's on a yearly basis.
No, I'm sorry. Is that in the charter or in the ordinance?
I think it's in the ordinance. The charter just says that the salary will be set, I
Okay.
believe.
All right, so it doesn't affect the mayor, no how? Whether we put this in or not, it's gonna go automatically in?
The CPI language, you had already voted that in the last time you passed the ordinance.
Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you.
Any more questions?
No, but I do have a comment.
Oh, thank you.
No,
All right. Well, then, Mr. Chairman, I will, I think
Go
I
ahead,
did before,
please.
I'm sorry.
Please.
I will withdraw my objection to the CPI for the mayor, but I intend to ask again for the CPI for the council and for the school committee at a future date.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Napolitano?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually in favor of the CPI for the mayor's office. I'm not in favor of the raise because there's already a component built in to give him a cost of living raise each year. We've already granted, and again, it doesn't matter who the mayor is, but we've already granted the position of mayor a 4-year term. So the mayor is already in a position where he's actually better compensated than past mayors. And with a cost of living index adjustment annually, I think we're already addressing the issue. So I have no problem with addressing the CPI at a future date with Councilman Hanlon. I think it's something that should be addressed. I just didn't want it, I don't believe it should be addressed with the items on the agenda this evening. So where the charter already, or where there's an ordinance that already allows for a cost index increase for the mayor, I think the issue of adjusting the mayor's salary on an annual basis has already been addressed and doesn't need to be pursued any further than this. So I will not be supporting an increase in salary for the mayor's position.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a motion before us, Mr. Chairman,
I ask for favorable recommendation
for the whole thing?
for the
Second
126.
motion.
Yes.
Second that, John?
Second motion.
Second? Roll call vote?
All right, Councilor Florio.
Yes.
I got Councilor,
Yes.
I got Councilor Napolitano.
No?
And I got Councilor Telespola.
Yes.
All right, we have 3 yeas, 1 nay.
Motion has passed.
All right, item number 4. This is an order up by Council Rosa DeFlorio to increase the salary of the city clerk to $86,139.
Councilor Florio?
In regards to the city clerk, if anybody is watching or hearing this, the city clerk did not receive any compensation for 9 years. Not even a cost of living raise, nothing, for 9 years. So if you get his salary, like I said before, and in the past 9 years, CPI, I believe, I'm not 100% sure, and I'd like to ask this question to Melissa after, but I believe the CPI is a cost of living raise that the governor puts forward, and I believe that's what they give the union workers in the city, or, could I ask that question to Melissa,
Yes.
please?
So the cost of living increase, it's a CBI, it's actually a federal government number. And every year they come out with a number that's the cost of living increase across the entire country.
And basically, is that more or less when, not that I'm trying to get involved in the union when you're doing union negotiations,
We
that's more
try
or
to
less
base
what
it
you
more or
try
less
to
on that amount.
to get, okay.
Fairly
'Cause
across the board.
The point I'm trying to make is, I took the last 9 years of the union workers, what they received for increases, and it's basically about 2% a year, but there was 1 year where they did get 11%. So the 11% and then the 2%, I come up with like 27%.
Okay, I'm not sure about the 11%. It might have been before we were here, okay. Because, yeah, we've been pretty across the board, 2% every year, which tends to be.
Not that I have anything against that,
No.
because they weren't making anything. I mean, there was
It-
clerical workers
yeah.
making 25,000. I mean, give me a break,
Some of
you
those
know.
may have been reclassifications or steps, but so the CBI tends to be somewhere between like, and depends on the year, 1% to 3%.
It's never like
typically.
10% or 20%. It's
Not in
basically.
not in this environment, no.
Okay.
So I know Rich and I looked at looked at them recently, and they hover around. We just did 3 years, and we both came up with around 2% for the last 3 years.
Okay, but saying, even if the economy turns around and it's good, it's never a high figure.
In my time working, I've never seen it be at that amount. It's hovered around the 1, 2, 3% mark.
Okay. All right, so that's my question.
Okay.
Thank you, I don't have any further questions. So my point is, if you get whatever the city clerk is making at, I believe the salary is what, 70,000?
72,134.
So if you add every year 2%, that adds up. So for 9 years, there's been no increase. The city clerk has never received an increase in the last 9 years. So, these figures come from, that I gave you, was due to a study that was done. Okay, so I didn't take the figures out of my head, just so this board knows. Now, I leave it up to this board, but, whatever this board decides to do, but that's what I feel the figures should be.
Okay. Councilor Napolitano?
Could we ask Mr. Viskey to come up, please? Thank you. How is the city clerk's salary currently set? Is it set by charter, by ordinance, by the city council?
Set by the Association of City Council, the salary is submitted, part of the budget, for you to either confirm or reduce, obviously, you can't increase, so that's the process. It's not by charter.
Yeah, the charter allows us to set the salary for the city clerk. Okay. All right. And do we actually need to enact an order to do that, or are we able to do that just through the normal budget process? Excuse me?
Through the budget.
Do it through the budget, okay. Yeah.
We have the city clerk submit his budget based upon, I guess, recommendation from council.
Mhm. Okay.
And come back before you to confirm that. I didn't want to clarify one thing, though, just because, not the correction, council, but everyone got consent operating process, so I believe, I don't know that. We've done full raises, but, There's a small raise, but I don't know what it is we try to do a full raise part of the budget process for the last few years.
For 9 years, and that's the first time after 9 years.
All right, thank you. That's what I just wanted to clarify, is that the city council can do this through the budget process in conjunction with the recommendation from the city clerk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Hanlon, you have a question?
I have no questions.
Thank you.
If I could, I mean, I have no issue with the amount. I mean, watching, in, 20 years of city government, I got to say that the city clerk's office is the lifeblood of the city. It keeps a lot of it keeps our elections straight, it keeps our birth certificates, our marriages, it keeps all our licensing straight. There's a lot involved here. And I'm not just saying that because the former city clerk is sitting in front of me.
I'm not looking at
But the one thing, in all honesty, in 20-plus years of involvement in city government, I think that I've always been impressed with the workload and the level of professionalism that comes out of that office. I have absolutely have no issue whatsoever with bringing the city clerk's salary up to a respectable level. Do we need to do it through an order? If that's the body's desire, I have no problem with that. But we don't need to do it with an order. We can do it through the budget, and we can make it much simpler, much easier, and just get it done. So I will motion for favorable action on this order. If the will is that we do this through order, my recommendation is that we do approve the city clerk's salary, who has not had a raise in several years, longer than that, and again, is so directly involved in every component of city government that I think it's overdue. So I would make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, for that motion, Councilor DeFlorio, you have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason why I did put this on the agenda is just so that it was done through a study and we knew the amount. Okay, so regardless of how we want to do it, to me, I'd rather do it with the order. That way, because if the rest of the board asks the question, how did you come up with this figure? At least they know it was a study being done, and that's it. Then we can put it in whichever way we choose to do it is not a problem. But I just want to explain why I put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor, you
Yes. I have something here that shows that I have a list of 18 cities, municipalities, and the salaries of the city clerks. And it goes from a population of 28,789 to a population of 75,754. The salaries range, one's $107,000, and the smallest salary is $72,134. The $72,134 belongs to the Everett City Clerk. Giving him what I hope we will give him will put him up to being number 6 from the bottom instead of the bottom.
correct.
So he'll be 6 out of 18. That will still mean that 2/3 of the clerks are still paid higher than him. Not that I'm looking for any more. But I would like to take and have this attached to the order so that when it goes back to the full board, that they will be able to see these figures. And
Okay.
so I'm asking that, I don't know if I can do that as a motion, that this be, and you all have a copy of it, that this be attached to the motion to the order.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Did you second that? Okay.
And then, did you move favorable action? If not, second, whatever, second.
Yeah, second.
Great. Roll call vote?
All right, Councilor,
Yes.
I got Councilor Hanlon.
John?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes,
I'm
all right.
sorry.
All right, Councilor Napolitano.
Yes.
And Councilor Telesua.
Yes.
All right, 4 in the affirmative and 0 in the negative.
Can I make a comment from the chair before we adjourn here? People watching tonight are going to see that from the school department, school committee we gave a raise to, the mayor we gave a raise to, and the city clerk. I don't want people just to think that we're just throwing money around here. This is money that, like we said, certain individuals haven't going to raise in 9 years. So if you're doing your own job, you haven't going to raise in 9 years at your own position where you work, whatever you do during the day. These are raises that were due, way overdue, and I want people to realize that we're not just throwing the taxpayers' money out here to please the city officials. Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Thank you.
Make a motion to sign the bills? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, we still have item
Reconvene.
5 before us.
Excuse me?
We still have item 5.
Yes, we're going to reconvene this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, and we have not adjourned yet, so I don't want to reconvene yet. I want to speak on item number 5.
Go ahead.
Okay, Counselor?
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I've been here now for a few months and working on these, to sign these monthly warrants. And the monthly warrants, to me, mean exactly nothing. I mean, I know there's a lot of facts and figures. There's no reflection on the department that produces this, believe me. I've talked to him before. I don't believe that I'm getting anything out of it. The warrants that we're signing are very complicated. They're not in the order that I prefer to look at them. They don't have departmental totals. They don't have, I don't know if you'd call them vendor totals, or if that's of the account totals. I don't have that. So I think that the fact of us just looking at these warrants and signing them does not do, we're not working in the best interest of the citizens of the city of Everett to know exactly where the money is going. So I'm going to be asking that we really take a good look at these warrants and decide not to do them, not to have them come before us, but to have another kind of a report from the auditor that we would be able to work with and understand exactly where the money was going to. Because if you ask me what the library spends on snow removal, if they do spend, if they have a budget for that, I don't know. And there's no way that I can find it looking at that report unless I ask Mr. Biscay, who knows everything. I mean, he really does. He knows everything. But that's not up to him to tell us. That's up to the report to tell us. And we could sit down and ask Mr. Biscay every question that we could think of, and it would be every line in that report. And that's not what we want to do. So I'd like to have another report. I don't know the exact formation of the report, that what it should be, but all I know is it should be something other than what we're doing.
Okay.
So I want to make that as, allow one of us to go down and talk to Mr. Biscay and see if we can come up with some other kind of a solution that the committee would accept, that I could accept, and something that we could see more of what we're doing and more of how we can be responsible to the city of Everett. Because I don't know what to tell them when they ask me how much we spent on snow removal. I know it's an awful lot of money, bad one, on truck repair. That's a better question, you know, or on police car gasoline and things like that. I can't find that in those reports. And so I think that we need something like that for us to do. So therefore, I'm asking that you appoint a member of the committee to speak to Mr. Biscay during, you have working hours, right? Well, either Rosewood or myself, that we can go and talk to him, maybe together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can work with, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Absolutely, yeah.
okay, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll make a motion, we go in and sign the reports. And adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Yes.